We're going to start with college, Felix, and a name that you should know. If you are a ball knower and you are on the defensive side of the ball, you should know who Sheil Woods is.
Who? No.
If you are shocked at all that Texas Tech is where they are because of that defense, one, they have one of the best linebackers in the country in Rodriguez. But Sheil Woods is an East Coast 3-4 guy. This is pretty much a simplified version of the Aranda system. It's what App State has ran forever. It's part of that. Wofford, it's an FCS, has been an FCS powerhouse at times in South Carolina, running kind of a version of the flex bone, but also the East Coast 3-4. This is a system that is proven to work from college all the way down to the high school level. So I am not surprised at all that Tech, we know that they can find offense. The defensive side has always been the issue there. When they hired Woods, I was excited because I was like, they finally got themselves a defensive coordinator that can play a mitigating defense, that can get them in the right spot and just not mess up, be fundamentally sound, know how to kind of counter what a lot of these spread teams are doing. And they dismantled BYU. BYU really never had a shot in this game.
Yeah, and it is really interesting because I like Sataki and what he's done with BYU over the last couple of years, and they've been a very good team this year. And it was, frankly honest, it was very shocking to see what Texas Tech, even though they have been very good defensively and otherwise, it was shocking to see that. But going up to the Big Ten, Penn State and Indiana, it was a very good football game in general, but it gets boiled down all the way down to the singular play, the singular toe, if you will.
Singular toe.
Omar Cooper Jr. makes the catch of, we're still early in it, but the century. I think, especially in college, and it was really close. It almost would have been good in the NFL, and you and I were texting as they were figuring it out. Shouts to Josh Dasher, the back judge on the touchdown, completely locked in. But we were talking back and forth, maybe the NFL should adopt the 1 foot rule because it's just fun to see. I don't care if it's easier, but you get plays like that can happen. The guy goes up to the rafters, brings the rebound down, and wins the game. And it is Fernando Mendoza's Heisman moment because the drive was so good before that, but that play was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was amazing. And you said it, the angle that they used on TV, I even tweeted it out, was just I cannot believe this just happened. But he the ref never took his eyes
as
off
soon as
the
he
foot.
knew he had possession up top, he went straight down to his feet and was like, where are his feet going to land? And he knew where they landed because that's the only thing in a stadium of 100,000 screaming people. I'm focused on a toe, and he got it.
And we give refs such a hard time all the time. It was nice to see, no, this guy was locked in. He knew exactly what he was doing. I also thought it was really fitting that the one time that Franklin is not on the sideline is the time that they beat a top 5 team.
This close. Oh, that would have been incredible.
Penn State's going to Penn State, and that's what this program does. If I'm a fan of Penn State, and I like Penn State, just as an objective observer, somebody that has zero skin in the game. They always have good talent. They always play hard. They always are right there. They're good, right? And then it's just they can never beat the big dogs. And it's Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana. If you are ranked in the top 5, it's a guaranteed win against Penn State.
That was incredible. Okay, Purdue, they hold Ohio State scoreless in the first half. It's 3-0. It's well, all right, what's going on here? And then Ohio State's oh yeah, we're the best team in the country let's go play some football real quick. Interesting, I brought this up in the notes because USC, they flexed on Northwestern. I want your opinion on the quarterback number switch for Sam Heward to switch to number 80 on the fake punt. Did you see this?
No, I did not see this.
Okay, I'm glad that you haven't. So basically, Sam Heward is a backup quarterback on the roster. They go to run a fake punt against Northwestern. They switched his number to 80, the same number as their punter. And the Big Ten, after the fact, after they got the first down, won the game by however many touchdowns they did, after the fact said, yeah, that probably should have been a penalty because they had the same player playing the same position, wearing the same number. Or excuse me, different players wearing the same number playing the same position. Obviously, you can't do that. You see the safety at Texas and Arch Manning both wearing 16, so it's possible. But in this case, Lincoln Riley is just like, let's be a little cheeky here and cheat. They cheated, but they got away with it because it was after the fact that the Big Ten was like, yeah, let's reel that in.
I've always thought that it was interesting. Like, obviously you can't switch a number. You can't switch a number like in the middle of a game. Like a guy just can't switch a number. I mean, there's funny stories. It really, to be honest with you, if you old football, like old time football, like in the 40s and 50s used to be like the Wild West. Like people, I always loved the ones of where they would stitch leather on the jerseys. So you had no idea like who actually had the ball. Like they would fake who had the ball.
Awesome.
There's just some stuff like that. I did not hear about it. That's hilarious. And look, the whole saying of like, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I mean, that is the definition of it. Of like, hey, look, we're gonna put two guys with the same number. We're gonna see if y'all can catch it. They didn't.
In a game, we're gonna win by 4 touchdowns anyway.
Yeah, that to me is the other thing. Like, come on, man. If you're gonna lose, like Northwestern is one of those teams that can kind of pop up on you. But like, you're right. If you're USC, you should probably not be. That says more about where y'all stand at than anything about Northwestern.
All right, Memphis, they were upset by Tulane. Tulane's still a good program, but Memphis was ranked at the time, obviously. And I think it's kind of interesting where like a program like that lies, because we have like, and we've talked about it a lot last week with the coaching carousel. We mentioned Silverfield's name in that. Does that get to a team you're late in the game? It's like, well, coach is out of here in a couple of weeks anyway, so does it really matter if we go play in whatever bowl game if we're not going to be in the college football playoff? We'll see with a team like Memphis, a team what could have been like Memphis. So does that play into like I don't know if you've been, I can't line up timelines exactly. Were you a part of a team or whatever it was where it was just like, yeah, coach might be out of here in a couple of weeks? I know that recruiting calendars were different last century for you, but it is kind of interesting to see how things kind of shift around, at least in that individual circumstance.
Well, I think with Memphis, it's more or less like it's really interesting because of the NIL. One of the underlining things that we've seen is that there has also been a separation in the G5. Like, I don't think people understand the canyons that we see at the Power Five. Like, for instance, the spending of Ohio State versus the spending of just somebody even within that conference, you know, like a Purdue or whatever, is going to be astronomical. But it's even wider when you get to the G5. Some of these G5 teams, like a Louisiana Tech or a Jacksonville State, New Mexico State, some of these like really the ones that you love to play on NCAA, like, I'm gonna rebuild it. Give me the worst team, I'm gonna rebuild it. Like, a lot of those programs, they basically are working at half of what a program just even within their state. Like, if you go and you look at the budgets for like New Mexico versus New Mexico State, that's a state that's not very football heavy. That's a state that you're probably not even worrying about.
Let's talk about LSU compared to Louisiana Tech. Like, what are we doing there? Yeah.
Well, and then but that's understandable. You would assume that. I mean, Louisiana State is it is the state university in Louisiana. Right. There really is no other one. Yes, we have the directional schools, but in terms of like the G5, you don't see that. Memphis, on the other hand, is actually a relatively kind of not necessarily a rich school, but they have some NIL money and they always seem to find talent. There's a lot of talent in that area. I don't think people understand. Look on a map where Memphis is. You can go to St. Louis. You can go to Kansas City. You can get into Arkansas. You can even get into Oklahoma. You're you're literally on top of Mississippi and Alabama.
Exactly. You're right. Like right north of the second best JUCO conference in the world. Like it is pretty interesting. Like you have like right in that hotbed. Like sure, you'd rather be in Texas or Georgia or South Florida or whatever. But like if you're, it's kind of like, it's a weird comedy thing that I knew. There's a place that you can live in Ohio where you're like 600 miles away from like 70% of the U.S. population. It's one of those weird spots where you're just like, yeah, you can get everywhere from this one spot, and it's Memphis, Tennessee. Like you can have a really good infrastructure and build a really nice program. Like we've seen multiple guys run through there and do some really good things, and now there's a whole new era, like you're talking about with NIL, that could really enhance things at Memphis.
Well, in this conference, I think so. The bigger picture here, to wrap up the college part of this, the bigger picture here is like Jeff Traylor came out and was basically through, I think, South Florida and some of these other American conference schools, kind of like out there of like, oh, well, they're operating at such a bigger budget than we are. You know, woe is me type deal. You know, I think Alex Golsh snapped back and was like, hey, you know, we're doing the resources we have are the resources we're given, like, get over it. But that's kind of the thing. The American has always thought of themselves as like the P6, right? When we had the P5, they thought they were the sixth conference, and they, for the most part, they were. A lot of their teams got taken out, and so that reshuffling. So I just wanted to put that. I thought this was a really good example of. I thought I saw something on social media about. I think one of the boosters from Memphis was like, "How are we still losing some of these games? We have the best roster. We should be winning." And so I do think like that's something to keep an eye on. Is, you know, like, where's Boise State? Right? Where are some of these teams that were able to do what you normally do? Is like, we're going to develop. We're a developmental school. We're going to bring in guys that are under recruited. We're going to develop them. Well, now a guy popped for you. He's gone. Like he's now at USC. Right? Like, oh, he did good for me, or he's now at Washington or something like that. So I think that now you kind of have to, the attrition at these schools, it's going to come down to the way you want to know how you can keep guys there is, one, have a relationship with these kids, but also two, be able to at least get them close.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, I mean, look at a team that does not have the NIL money as other teams in there is Louisville. Look at their offensive roster. How are they able to keep there? Because they want to play for Jeff Brom. And that's an NFL system. But also they can get the guys close.
And that's why a name like Brian Hartline is really interesting in this coaching carousel. Like, I mean, even if he doesn't get one of these big jobs, I mean, maybe Memphis is the level of job that he could get, or whatever the case may be, being that he's never been a head coach before. But he is the level of recruiter that you want to say, like, hey, let's see what this guy can do. And obviously the best wide receiver coach in the country that we've seen over the last decade or so, or whatever it is. So it is a really, I'm very interested in the coaching carousel every year. So we could talk about that for like an hour, but let's talk about Thursday night football last week, which could not have given you much confidence in your boy Bo Nix.
I mean, I would love to come on here and beat my chest and be like, the Broncos are the AFC West leading.
They have 8 wins. Like, that's the only number in the column, but that's almost as many points as they scored.
They remind me, to put it into perspective, they remind me of like the Chiefs from like last year. Like, they win with defense. The offense is just pitiful sometimes, but they're just good enough.
I hate that point because, and I know the Chiefs, obviously they had won the 3 Super Bowls and all that stuff, but every time in the fourth quarter, and a couple of times this season, Bo Nix has been the guy in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid won the fourth quarter every time last year. That's not necessarily the case where you saw Thursday night where they were just bad. And it was just they happened to be playing the Raiders and they were worse. And so, like, and they a couple of weeks ago, they just so happened to be playing the Jets and they were worse. And so it's like, sure, they're kind of like the Chiefs of last year.
Well, yes.
Yeah, kind of, because they keep winning by that much. But
yes. But I'm just saying, like, if there's like, that's what it feels like to me. Now, obviously, we don't have Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, we don't have Andy Reid. So look, like, and that's my question.
Particularly bad. That's what's bothering me, is that he is the reason that they're this bad. And like, the defense is probably better than the Chiefs defense was,
bar none. Yes,
and they've been really good.
Yeah, and that's kind of the question is, right? So is it, and that's where we are right now, I think, and this is what's going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem headed next year. There's going to have to be decisions made, right? Because now he's 3 years in. You're now over the 3 years.
Drake May doing what he's doing. Right. Caleb's coming into his own.
Hey, I'm telling you right now,
into an NFC Championship game.
100%. If we had Drake May as our quarterback, I'm telling you right now, we're probably winning the Super Bowl. Period. End of story. I mean, I would even take Jackson Dart. People aren't talking about Jackson Dart enough and what he's been able to do with the Giants. We'll talk about the Giants later, but that's kind of the chicken and the egg, right? If you're a Broncos fan and really what's been going on is like, okay, is it Sean Payton and he front loads everything. So there's never any chance to get momentum. They can't add any, everything is in day one install. Or is it Bo? Here's my thing with Bo Nix that I do appreciate. He is throwing the ball down the field. It's just we're not hitting some of these intermediate routes in kind of that soft spot of defenses where you need to win. And so you're looking at some deep throws. And here's the thing. Yeah, he's a gamer in the fourth quarter, but how sustainable is that? He's 20. So quarterback rating, look, there is no really good metric for quarterbacks. You can use ESPN's QBR, which has its own problems. You can look at EPA, which again loses a lot of context for the game. Quarterback rating's been around forever, but it is
Just
interesting.
watch the games, and I know it is that that's kind of very lame, I guess, but if you watch the games, you can kind of feel who's playing well. We're going to get to it here in a moment. Michael Penix, even though they were close in that game, it's he's going to be the reason they lost. And guess what? He was the reason they lost. And so if you just watch the games, and I know that's saying a lot. I'm not watching film like Cody is, but at the same time, just watch the games. You kind of see who's not playing that well.
Yeah, and I don't know how sustainable being 24 points better in your rating only in the fourth quarter is. So it's I'm going to just not be great in 3 quarters, but okay, let's turn it on. Look, if they didn't have a good defense, we would not be having this conversation. We'd be looking like the Raiders. The Raiders have a bad quarterback. They have a bad roster. Ashton Genty really and Brock Bowers really right now are the only saving grace on offense. And then obviously Max Crosby.
Patrick Graham. That is it.
Yes, and that's the other thing too. I hate that for a guy like Patrick Graham of look, you really only have one player. They got rid of Spillbane. They got rid of some of these other guys. It's it was bad.
Yeah. All right. Going over to Berlin. Very like I mentioned earlier, it was a very close game, but Michael Penix wasn't very good throughout it. Daniel Jones also not very good. He had his Daniel Jones moments, but he got him a first down late in the game and in overtime. But obviously the story of the Colts, and it's obviously they are very similar to last year's Minnesota team, but I think they're also very similar to a couple years ago's San Francisco 49ers team, where it's the quarterback's playing great. The running back is the reason they are one of the best teams in football. Jonathan Taylor, like Christian McCaffrey is the reason why they are one of the best teams in football, and he's on pace to break 2,000 and or the rushing record.
Yeah, I think he's right over where Saquon was after 10 games. And
by 2 or 3 yards or 12 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there within 10 yards. He's definitely going to have an opportunity to beat it. Look, you talk about Penix. There have now been, I think, in almost every game that I've watched of him just miss a protection call. So the Colts basically go with an all-up alignment. They're going to go full slide to Penix's left. And instead of reading the hot guy off the end of the line, he goes and he wants to throw to Drake London. Or it was Pitts, either one. But the problem was that route was a 10-yard route. He needed to instantly throw it. He has no idea. It ends up being a sack fumble, and they lose control of the ball. And it's this happens every game. So the question is this coaching or is this just rebellion of no, I'm going to throw it that way.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw it to Drake London, because these are things look, the first time you get smacked like that in week 1, 2, or 3, that should be it. You should have learned that lesson of okay, when we slide to the left in full protection against an all-up defense, I need to be looking to my right, and slide it the other way if you want that guy to be that. But still, even then, it's a elongated route. You know that they can't. I think that's another reason why too. And I say this all the time. I talk to coaches all the time. Use all-up alignments. Just because the one time you do send a blitz, somebody will think that somebody's not coming and they'll miss a block. The running back will miss a block. The quarterback won't check to the hot. Some of these offenses don't even have hots. So it's that's what you should be doing.
Yeah. It is interesting. Sauce Gardner almost had a big pick, and I did have Falcons. I texted you plus 350 money line. It was looking good. It was looking good for a little bit, but then again, Michael Penix. All right. But Colts able to get out of Berlin with the win. They go to Kansas City next week, taking on the Chiefs after a bye. Don't like their chances.
No.
Then the Dolphins dominating the Buffalo Bills of all teams. Like
shocking.
Aside from this year, like sure the Dolphins have been bad. They had a little bit of a bump. Like maybe they might come back and get crushed by the Ravens. They have 10 days off to gather themselves and get their stuff together. But at the same time, we've seen over the course of this era, this Tua versus Josh era, the Bills dominate the Dolphins, and the script got flipped, and it was completely ridiculous. Devon Achane had the big run, had 174 yards on the game, and like I think the undoing is kind of like the Bills undoing it, like it is a lot of years. Josh might turn the ball over when you need him to the least. And it could be in the red zone or driving into the red zone like it happened twice yesterday.
Yeah, it was just really uncharacteristic. But I think it really highlights the problems. Like we talked last week about how the Dolphins pretty much the only way that they get any kind of traction in the run game is outside.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then here we see against the Bills, and we have major off tackle runs for touchdowns. I mean, the longest one was an off tackle run. So it's like they kind of like they took advantage of the Bills run defense, which has been something of a concern all year long. What I think this tells me more than anything else is there is no dominant AFC team. I mean, maybe the best team in this division, if you look at it, if let's say, okay,
I think there is a dominant AFC team. We'll get to them in a little bit, and they are in this division.
Well, I'll say the Patriots.
Dude.
My thing is because you look at it like, okay, you have the Indianapolis Colts. Do we really think Daniel Jones is a Super Bowl quarterback?
No.
Do I think the Broncos in a one-off game are going to be able to go, are they going to be able to
10 points a game? Not the way they played against the Raiders, the worst team in football.
Well, in this, here's the other thing too. We're sitting at 8-2. We get the bye. We get the mini bye. We are at home against the Chiefs. So if you could say that that's a coin flip. Perfect. But then you got to go to the Commanders. Are we guaranteeing that's a win at the Raiders? So that's great. But then we're going to finish with the Packers, Chiefs, and the Chargers. Throw the Jaguars in there that are the ultimate wild card because it depends on if Trevor
might win the division.
And the Chiefs are ascending. So to me, it's like, you still have the Chargers. This is not guaranteed. It scares me to death. Had we gone out and just pummeled the Raiders and the offense looked like it did against the Cowboys, and it looked like, hey, we're scoring some points, I would feel a little bit better if I was a Broncos fan. But I think the bigger picture here with this is it just shows you there is no dominant team in the AFC. And even though we've got 3 teams at 8-2, it's still a crapshoot.
Yeah. And like I disagree with you on the point that there's no dominant team, and it's not my team, unfortunately, but I think it is the Patriots. And I think there is another dominant team in the NFC as well. It happens to be that 2018 Super Bowl, that pivot point for you there, Cody, that everybody was looking at. The Rams and the Patriots, where the Rams, they dominate the San Francisco 49ers, which every year, the Rams and the 49ers, Shanahan versus McVay, it's probably going to be a split every year. I don't ever expect a blowout one way or another, and that's what we got on Sunday.
Man, Stafford just looks like a completely different player, and I know that a lot of people are talking about it now. I think statistically, he's having the best season he's ever had. I think the big story here,
3 games, 4 touchdowns, no picks.
It is fun to watch. You watch him go, and I think what's been really fun is that McVay finally pivoted to 12 and 13 personnel. Now, remember, this is the guy famous for, and our friend of the show, Jordan Rodriguez, when she was a beat writer for the Rams, their podcast literally was 11 personnel. That's what their Rams podcast was, because it's what he was trying to do. It's trying to do everything in 11 personnel. Now he's pivoted. He's fallen in love with tight ends. I think they're running like 13 personnel or 12 personnel on almost like 70% of their plays. Now I see, okay, people were a little bit like, ooh, okay, we're getting rid of Cooper Kupp. Okay. I think can Puka Nacua, and we love Devontae Adams, but like, can Nacua play outside receiver? Look, Nakua has proven that he is one of the best receivers, bar none, in the NFL. He can play outside. He can play inside. He can be a slot monster. He can win outside. I mean, I saw that in college. I remember when he got drafted, I texted Jordan and I said, you got to do, because I remember him at BYU absolutely demolishing the Baylor Bears early in the season. And he can win outside. He can win inside. You put it with a run game, and this is a really difficult offense to game plan for.
Yeah, it is really interesting, and that's why I think the Rams are probably the most dangerous team in the NFC, because they're essentially the same version of what they were when they won the Super Bowl. Stafford's playing great. They have a receiver who's balling out of his mind. You add Devontae on top of that, and then the defense is probably better than what it was back then. But even then, they don't have that one dominant piece. But taking a look at why this is so interesting in today's game, that's why it's so interesting. But this division, the NFC West, always super interesting, because guess who's also phenomenal? The Seattle Seahawks, who are up like that 35-0 over the Arizona Cardinals, who I know you like, and they're playing a little bit better with Jacoby Brissett. And I don't think that Kyler Murray would have dug them out of that hole like Jacoby did, but they weren't supposed to get dominated like that by the Seahawks, who are very good, but like a division game, and you see a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence, first player since the merger to have 2 fumble returns for a touchdown. How about that? Sam Darnold also playing outside of his mind, but I think you would agree the true story is Mike Macdonald in that defense.
Man, and so that to me is going to be, I think, the most interesting matchup going forward, because you have the Rams, who play a lot of 12 and 13 personnel, which what that does is it forces you to play base, which any base defense is very pared down. In fact, there was a great segment, if you were watching the Patriots Buccaneers, and Tom Brady talked about the Buccaneers' use of 12 personnel and why it's so important to be able to run out of 12 personnel. Because when you play a nickel defense, it's exponentially more diverse in what you can play just schematically than what you play in base. Also, we know, look, tight ends nowadays especially are really good receivers. You're going to have a really good receiver. You're going to have one that's more or less like you can have a glorified tackle or whatever. I think it's really interesting to look at what the Steelers are trying to do. Steelers trying to play a bunch of 13 personnel with basically a glorified tackle in Darnell Washington.
They tried to turn him into a tackle.
Yeah, yes. But my point being there is that this is obviously much different. When you watch the Rams, like all three of their tight ends can block, and they can also go out for a pass. Like these guys are really good at what they do. You go and you look at Seattle. This is another 12 personnel team that wants to do a lot. I think, guess what? They're passing out of it. So yeah, the run game, we don't know if it'll show up. It may or it may not. Kenneth Walker's basically like 2 steps forward, 1 step back every time that he runs the ball. But this whole division to me is really interesting, because even the Cardinals, and then we haven't even mentioned the 49ers, who are the kings of 12 and 21 personnel. So this whole division, again, it's so annoying, right? Outside. But this is why we talk about it, because it's like every 5 years, you have these guys, McVay and Shanahan, essentially they completely reshuffle what they're doing. We've seen McVay pivot to this, and I think to me that it's really shows why this division is one of the coolest divisions to watch and really pay attention to.
Well, and we see it a lot. Like we talk a lot about the NFC South and like how personnel wise, like everybody's gone and got their power forward receiver, Drake London, Ted McMillan, Mike Evans. They've all got their Mike Evans. And so, like, obviously in this division, everybody's been kind of chasing the 49ers over the last decade because Kyle got there first. And I guess, well, whatever. Him and Sean were rivals, whether it be friendly rivals. And it's really interesting, like we talked about here. But all divisions kind of like claw against each other, but then start to morph into each other. And it just like if one guy's kind of a hybrid and changing some things, you're going to have to change some things too, because he's figuring you out at the same time, because his defensive staff, he's getting Robert Saleh back. So it is really interesting to see how things are moving, especially with this division. And you throw in the extra wrinkle where it's like, what the hell is Mike Macdonald doing? Where he's like he's like the defensive version of all of these guys, and seeing what he's going to be able to do with Seattle this year and moving forward.
Well, and I thought him going get Eamon Worry from South Carolina and what he's been able to do with him really on the field, to me, that has been kind of the whole genesis of kind of where I'm really excited about this particular division. Like all of these games against Seattle and the Rams and the 49ers, and look, I've talked about this before. I love the Cardinals defense, but it's just like you don't know what Cardinals team you're going to get just because they just don't have the top end talent. But talking about Mike Macdonald, people are so focused on the Micah Parsons part of the Cowboys kind of, you can say, debacle on defense this year, but nobody is talking about the fact that Tank Lawrence is just really having an almost rebirth within the later stage of his career. He's actually getting sacks. It's funny, Bob Sturm here in Dallas, I've followed him for a long time. We communicate regularly about the Cowboys during the offseason, things like that. And he even mentioned we know that Micah is not a safe topic to bring up. People are really angry about it here. But can we bring up Tank Lawrence? Can we talk about the fact that we let one of the best run defenders go? Our run defense is terrible. He's also now, and I made sure to reply to one of his tweets, was like, he's also getting sacks. Like this is a guy that he had he had 2 returns. Now those weren't necessarily his, but that's kind of the whole deal. The other thing about the Seahawks, Felix, which I think is crazy, is that they are a top 5 pressure team. Getting pressure, getting sacks, getting to the quarterback. They are a bottom 10 blitz team. When they blitz, it hits. And Macdonald is a genius at blitz design, and he's almost Spags-like in the way that he knows exactly when to call the pressure.
Right. That is really interesting, and I think it's also like a thing where it's like, what's the crater you leave in your previous job? Look what Baltimore's, and like, even though they figured it out, but like Zach Orr, there's at least a leadership void there, or whatever it is. They were the best defense in football. It took them a while to figure it out last year. This year, we'll see what they're doing moving forward. I always do this just a little behind the scenes for the audience. I skip over a game pretty fast, and I think this warrants it. Browns, Jets, somebody had to win. Go Jets.
I know, but we have to communicate. The key there, don't just skip over the note. There's 2 notes that we need to talk about on this game. So you mentioned the Jets only win when Justin Fields does not touch the ball. So his first real play that he had, they were already up 14-0, and he had not touched the ball.
And if you're Justin Fields, you're like, all right, this is going to be a great day. And then the game gets close. And like, what's going on? It's just a Jets-Browns game. And it was slightly interesting, but also I wouldn't put my worst enemy through watching Jets-Browns, because good God, no.
Well, and then the Browns lose on the last, it's a 4th down. Everybody and their mom knows that this is just, they're going to get up there and they're going to do it basically relaxed. No one's going to call a play. You jump off sides, give them a 1st down. The game is official. I mean, if this game, that's a fitting ending, right? That's why I said we can't skip over this. We have to talk about this for just a second.
If Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry hadn't got their extensions this offseason, and we saw them in Indianapolis, I was like, they were just rolling around like, we know what we know we're trying to rebuild a roster here, just trying to figure it out. But it was it's just like, if they didn't get that extension, you have to fire them. You have to fire them after that game.
Right? Stefanski just needs to just quiet quit. Just start doing stuff like, hey, we got the ball in the 10-yard line. Let's just go ahead and punt on 1st down. Dude. Let's roll back to the Jim Thorpe days when we used to just punt when you got the ball inside the 10-yard line.
Incredible. Just incredible. And it's like, Shador. All right. Like, come on. Like, whenever he's healthy, come on down. The Texans, they got a big win. Trevor Lawrence had I'll defend Trevor Lawrence here. He had the strip sack that lost the game. But that was his first pass of the 4th quarter. The 4th quarter that they entered up 29-10. Yeah, not bad. They took the ball out of his hands. They do end up losing the game, and it looks particularly bad. Just get in the field goal range. And
you have the best weapon in the NFL. Like literally all you have to do is get to the 50-yard line. Like if you just even get to the 45 of your other opponent, like think about
he
that.
Broke the record last week in a loss.
Yeah, you only have to think about that. You only have to move the ball 20, 25 yards. That's it. If you move the ball 20, 25, because the average start is like around the 30, right? So if you can just get 25 yards, you're going to at least score a point. Couldn't even do it. I texted you during the game, Davis Mills, dual threat quarterback. Which is not a good sign. You know, this is one of those to like this defense for the Texans. This is another one kind of like it reminds me of the Broncos, but we're winning in Denver. Whereas like Houston, it's like this defense is so good and the offense is just so bad. Other than Nico Collins, it is just terrible. Also, before we move on to our Patriots, which I'm excited to talk about. Did you know Davis Mills is 3-1 against Trevor Lawrence?
It's one of those weird stats where it's like, and they bring it up, and I was texting you about Justin Simmons a little bit this weekend. But like Justin Simmons has all of Patrick Mahomes, or like 4 or 5 interceptions against Patrick Mahomes. It's just like, that's just such a weird thing. Like it's sure they play in the division all the time, but like Davis Mills versus CJ Stroud. How about it's almost like Shohei Ohtani getting struck out by a middle relief pitcher every time he goes up to bat. Like it's
just some random guy. Yeah. Oh man.
Not
but I just thought, I heard that
close to Shohei, but still.
I heard that and I was like, this is insane. 3-1. That can't be real, but it's a real stat. All right, let's talk about who you think is the number 1 team in the AFC. I kind of have to feel that way. I watched every down of that Patriots Buccaneers. This is a scary good team. They also illustrated going after the right guys in free agency, combining them with guys you already have on the roster, defensively anyway. And then offensively, I mean, Stephon Diggs looks like the old Stephon Diggs. And then I told you, if the Broncos had Drake May, I'm thinking we're going to the Super Bowl.
Well, and what's so interesting about that, and I think the reason why you think that is that with all of Bo Nix's deep balls, he misses them. With Drake May, he hits every one of his layups too. Like he hits everything. Like he's the most accurate quarterback in football right now. It's awesome. That's great. But also he's got those freakish talents. He's like a baby Josh Allen, and right now he's a little bit better than Josh Allen as we currently stand on November 10th, 2025 AD. I'd take Drake May over Josh Allen. That might be a little crazy as things currently stand, though. And so I think that's what's so interesting is that the Patriots have such a lead in this division and in the conference that, like, sure, you may not believe in the Broncos and what they're going to be able to do moving forward, but they have the 8 wins and they have the first round bye. I really believe in this Patriots team. Sure, they may lose to the Bills in their second half of their series this year, but I'm giving the Patriots a shot at that 1 seed, and then who knows? We've seen the Patriots enough in the Super Bowl for this lifetime, but at the same time, you're the 1 seed in the AFC. You've shown that you can beat the Bills, another team in the NFC, and like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that is in that same conversation. I'm very interested, and at this point, again, you have to give Drake May the MVP. I think he's the best. He's had the best season so far amongst everyone.
Yeah, I mean, him and Jonathan Taylor to me are the ones that are leading that. Look, they're not going to ever give it to a running back. Not in this day and age. Maybe
if he breaks the record, though, do you think if he breaks the record, do they give it to him?
I think if they break the record, and then I think if you continuously go, like, let's say they only lose like 4 games or 3 games, I think that you kind of almost have to give it to them.
And they're the 1 seed in the conference too. That helps too.
Yes, that always helps. I think again, this just goes to show that not every organization in the NFL is built the same. I mean, we talk about the Browns. They wasted, and I know we've talked about this on this show, they wasted one of the best rosters over the last 5 years. Yeah. Generational talent in Myles Garrett. Okay. Yeah. We talk about the Jets and the Jets are laughable at this point, right? Like you just continuously mess up. The Giants, why, right before we came on today, we typically do this on Monday afternoon. Fire Dable. Okay. So it's like, that there's these hapless teams like the Giants. The reason why, like let's be honest, that roster is so much better than what they're performing at. And we'll talk about them here in just a second, because I know we can't go a show without talking about Caleb Williams. But the Titans releasing Vrabel in just the way, just because there were certain things that, look, he was right about AJ Brown.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you go and you look at some of the player personnel things that the GM was basically doing things in spite of him or whatever, you know, and then again, they fired the GM. Obviously they fired the head coach that you brought in. So again, another rookie quarterback. We got one in New York too, another rookie quarterback. Caleb Williams got it too, where you hired the wrong head coach for the quarterback. You need that should be a pair. Anyway, look, Vrabel, to me, people forget this is a coach's coach. This is a player's coach. He loves football. He knows how to motivate. And I am not surprised at the least that the Patriots are back. I know that if you live on the East Coast, you aren't very happy about it. But to me, it's like, you got another quarterback. You have the head coach. We know that as long as Josh McDaniels just calls offense, you'll be fine. Do not let him anywhere near leadership, but let him just call offense. So, I mean, look, they did. And to just go through it, like, this has been a team that wants to play a lot of man coverage. They wanted to mix things up. They became a weak rotation cover 3 quarters team to match up with Egbuka in the tight ends that they have. And it's just like, they know how these little tweaks in the game plan, offensively and defensively. This is one of the best, well-coached teams in the NFL. I'm not shocked at all that they're winning.
And you're kind of kicking yourself if you're the Patriots, because you could have started this a year earlier and just hired them when you hired Gerard Mayo. Like, maybe
not fair to Mayo at all, because it's like, look, you kind of knew when he got hired that he was like, you were on the staff with Bill Belichick. You were really only tabbed the head coach in waiting because you know, like,
you passed the Rooney Rule, you had this. It was a weird deal built into your contract. Like, it worked out for you, but also it didn't, because you weren't prepared to be a head coach, because you were just made a head coach.
Right, exactly. And which, again, and that to me is the biggest problem, I think, especially with the NFL and the climate around, like, black head coaches. Like, a lot of times that's the guy who gets the head coaching job, right? Is like a Gerard Mayo, who is like, look, you're not going to have the support that you need. It's like a Steve Wilkes. They got, you know, when it's like, look, you get, you know, with the Panthers and things like that. So it's like
Lovie Smith getting hired after David Culley in Houston.
Yeah.
It's one of, like, the stupidest 2 years in Houston history. I don't
care.
And
it doesn't help, right? It doesn't help. And it's just like, there are plenty of coaches. We've talked ad nauseum about Anthony Weaver on here. And again, you know, we go back, that was what we didn't mention this too, but the defensive game plan, again, the defense has played well in Miami. Anthony Weaver is a guy that comes from the Ravens system, has proven that he can be a coordinator at a high level. So it's like, but here's the deal. If you go somewhere and you don't have the supporting cast, that's why I do not think that Aaron Glenn's going to get fired with the Jets, just because I think they're trying to burn everything down. And we'll talk about this a little bit, and we'll go in, you know, we probably spent too much time on Patriots because we're going to finish up with our Thursday preview, but also too, like, I think, like, the supporting cast, but yeah, I'm with you. You should have hired Vrabel last year to get this going, and think about where you would be, where you are now. Think about where you would be had you just had him for another year.
Yep. They say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time now. So you mentioned Caleb Williams. He was phenomenal in the fourth quarter against the Giants. The Giants blow another double-digit fourth quarter lead, like they did to your Broncos just a few weeks ago. They fired Daboll today, like you mentioned earlier. But I think the most interesting part about all of this, Jackson Dart, 4th concussion protocol of the season, and he hasn't started all the games. Is like, what do you do as a franchise if that's, and he's playing well? What is, like, sure, sit down and have the conversation with him, but at the same time, it's like, that's kind of the energy that you bring into your team. And then Cam Scatterbo, I know he got hurt, and it was a kind of a separate thing away from the style of play that they have, but what is the conversation you have with a guy like Jackson Dart? And then we can talk about how phenomenal Caleb was.
Well, I do think that this is part of the reason why Daboll's getting fired is, one, you're running your franchise quarterback basically like he's Josh Allen as a rookie. And I think he broke an NFL record for the most rushing touchdowns in a row or something for a quarterback. The concussion deal, didn't it end up being like they saw it later that he might have had, like it was a hit. They don't know. He's in protocol.
He had played for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Because watching the tape, he just goes out of the game. Right. And you keep on looking for the hit and it's like, oh, okay, well, it must've been earlier in the game. Russell Wilson, why are you not playing Jameis Winston?
Just at least for the memes, at least.
Yes. So again, I just think that this is another roster. This is a team to me that if you can get a guy like a Vrabel, right? Like you get the correct head coach. You already have the young quarterback that I think we're good. I think you have Scattaboo that can pair with Dart. You have, I think, the running back kid too behind him is good as well. Your offensive line is above average. You're going to get Neighbors back. I think the Theo Johnson kid is pretty good too. Defensively, this is a very good roster. Good. Outside of the corner room, you have Tyler Newman and Drew Phillips, who I think are going to be future stars in this league at nickel and safety. So it's like you just have a couple of these pieces that if you can just figure out, and then the coaching element of it, this could be a really, really good team.
Right. All right. Just a few more notes. Caleb was also very good especially at the end to drive them within field goal range. Again, like he was against the Bengals too. But the few notes here. The Lions roll past the Commanders with a very special guest in attendance, I guess. The Saints, they shocked the Panthers, which Panthers, they're the perfect 5-5 team, aren't they?
I cannot.
They're not that good, but they're pretty good, aren't they?
I cannot figure them out. Well, first of all, the defense played really well other than J.C. Horn, who's the highest paid corner in the league. And you're just like, well, that was the game you decided, like if we win this game, like we're rolling, like the Buccaneers lose, the Falcons lose. It's the NFC South chaos theory that we always talk about. You're right. No, you lose at home to the Saints. Shuck looks like a 10-year vet. I think he had the first win in the first 10 weeks as a rookie since like 1981 or something, like something insane. And it's like they still only beat you 17-7. So it's like the offense, that's what I think is crazy about this team, is that the defense will show up, but the offense won't. And then they'll have a game against Atlanta where they win 30-0. The offense looks awesome. The defense looks awesome. And then the next game, it's like, well, the defense sucked. They couldn't stop the run. And then the offense, it looked okay. It's like, figure it out, man. Right.
And the Chargers, they take care of the Steelers on Sunday night. This was from earlier in the season. I don't know if I mentioned it on the pod, but it was like I think they had scored a touchdown. And Broderick Jones, the left tackle for the Steelers, was trying to hug Rodgers, but it ended up turning to a tackle. And Rodgers got up pissed. He was mad. Understandably so. He's a 40-year-old quarterback. He shouldn't touch the ground more than he has to. Also, Aaron Rodgers is playing like a 41-year-old quarterback where he's just, all right, hot potato, just get it out. It's out. We're done. And then it's just like, all right, we're just going to defend you. We're just going to play and then tackle. And so like the Steelers, they just kind of regress to the mean, and the deep ball he missed big on DK early in the game. But the Chargers were also they're just fine. They're just the Chargers. So it was just like, whatever. What are we going to see? Something special from them? Like, I know they blew out the Vikings, but that was the Vikings. I don't know how good they are, but they also beat the Lions. I don't know. The NFL's weird.
This is, look, man. And going back, like we kind of skipped over this too, but like the Ravens end up winning 3 in a row. They end up beating the Vikings. The Vikings to me is a great example of why the NFL is so week to week, of where you look really good, but then you play a team like the Ravens. The Ravens took advantage of quick throws, get the ball out of your blitzes. You had no way of knowing it. You took advantage of the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs cannot pass protect and Goff hates pressure in his face. And then the following week, you look like you can't stop anything quick. So because they will not play man coverage. They just do not want to play man coverage. So like you said, week to week. All right, let's get to our Thursday preview, and then we'll get you guys out of here. It is going to be the Jets versus the Patriots. I think really the reason why you watch
this game 2 years ago would have been dog water. But now it's like, oh, Patriots might actually put up 30, but also I'd rather take the under.
Well, I would take the under in this as well. I do think, though, I will say this, like, if you're going to, this could be, if you haven't watched the Patriots game, this is a great way to look at. I hope Drake May plays, because obviously I would hate to be like, watch the Patriots and everybody's like, okay, I watched the Patriots and Drake May threw like 3 picks. I don't think that will happen. There's no Sauce Gardner, which by the way, he was supposed to shadow Drake London. And one of the touchdowns is literally Drake London running a wheel route on Jermaine Pratt, while Sauce takes the post to the post safety. So it's just like, hey, maybe guard the guy that you're shadowing. So I think he'll get it. I think he'll get it figured out.
He was there for 3 days, and then he had to fly to Germany. Whoa.
Yeah,
how London standing across? All right, now I'll cut him some slack, just a smidgen.
He probably was very, very tired. He probably had not slept in a long time. But I think you put it in the notes. I think this is correct. I think this is a grimy game. I think it's a 23-17, which there'll probably be a punt return or a kick return in there. I would say, or like it's a 20-15 with 5 field goals by the Jets, something like that. But I do think, you posed the question in the notes, and I think we kind of hit on it a little bit earlier, but I don't think Aaron Glenn gets fired in year 1. I think what they're doing is trying to break this thing down to the studs, much like Dan Campbell did with Detroit.
Yeah. But
you do have to show a little bit of kind of motivation, life. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they're 2-0 in the last 2 games. Congrats. And like, maybe there is some type of juice that is there with Sauce and Quinnen being gone. These are professional athletes. They got to go out there and play and finish the season somehow, some way, and so might as well have some pride. So, but I just don't see it like in a grimy game like this one. It's just gonna be. Yeah, the Patriots are. These are the games that I think the Patriots need to learn how to win. Where it's just like, yeah, you got to play the Jets on a Thursday night, and even though you might be one of the best teams in football, coming off a big win against the Bucs, and then you are the Felix's MVP, Drake May. But at the same time, what are you going to do against the Jets in division? All that good stuff. It is going to be interesting.
Well, and that's the thing is like, if Garrett Wilson isn't playing, like this is a. I mean, you can't hand the ball to Breece Hall because he's not that kind of a running back. Like, it's not Derrick Henry where, like, the old Derrick Henry, you can just hand the ball to him 40 times and you're going to grind out like 200 yards, basically like run a high school style offense. You know what I mean?
Speaking of Derrick Henry and a high school style offense, he just eclipsed more yards than he had as a high schooler in his 4 years in high school and like 9.5 seasons in the NFL. He just crossed over.
Well, that he played at, I think, a smaller school. Like, I think it was like a 4A. So like a middle, like probably like less than 1,000 kids at the school, probably like 500 kids, I think. Mm-hmm. But they had like a Derrick Henry rule where he could only carry the ball in like the first half or something like that. Like, I don't know where.
He's got 7 touchdowns, guys. We can't keep taking it.
Every game. Yes, every game. I mean, can you imagine? He was basically a man-child in high school. I can only imagine.
Man-child now.
Yes.
What are we talking about? That is a action figure carrying the football every Sunday.
I'll wrap this up. Like, I think we kind of mentioned, we talked about the Patriots a lot. I think the Patriots, obviously, I love their defensive roster. I think Christian Gonzalez is basically a season away. Stay healthy for a full year, get a full off season if you're not having to rehab. And then I think he's basically going to ascend to a top 5 corner in the league. Mm-hmm. They have a bunch of talent on defense too. But I look, here's the thing. Like, if I'm a Jets, I still think, like, even though you got rid of Sauce and Quinnen, I still think that there is some talent on this roster. I think Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald are still relatively good. The problem is you have Harrison Phillips, who's just a run-stopping nose. Jawan Briggs, you could probably throw in any interior defensive lineman from any team. You'd be fine. I do think that, like, Jermaine Sherwood is good. It's not a great thing that Quincy Williams is kind of fallen off. And I do think, too, their safety room is not great, but Brandon Stevens is actually playing relatively well this year. They're playing a lot of man. He's kind of a man corner. And then the Jarvis Brownlee move, you talk about a dude that does not mind mixing it up in the box. Like that dude's a thumper at corner, which I think fits that personality. So like I did like a thing on X this past week, talking to a Jets fans around New York. And that was one of the things I was like, look, there's some light at the end of the tunnel, but yeah, you're going to have to scratch out these grimy games. But I agree with you. You kind of hit the nail on the head, and that kind of encompasses this. And just to close out on this is that this is a game. If the Patriots really think that they can be the number one team in the AFC, this is a game you go out and win. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-7 game like the Broncos Raiders. I don't care. At the end of the day,
a little better than that.
Yes, please. A little better than that. No one wants to see the quarterback performance. Could you imagine a 10-7 game against these two? Like if Drake May just throws 3 picks, and then you have to watch Justin Fields return.
I snatched my MVP trophy away from him. Like, give me that. I lied.
Just not good. Not good at all.
That would be terrible.
But hey, I think this is a good game. So again, if you have not seen it, I think the Patriots do some really good stuff on defense. So make sure to tune in. Again, go watch football. Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Ball. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us out. Follow Felix and I both on socials. Let us know. And keep watching football, man.